What's up guys, Ryan with the MXG channel, and behind me I've got a 2023 Suzuki RMZ450. I'm going to show you real quick how to change the oil in it. It's one of the easiest bikes to change the oil in. Super simple, we'll run through it. This process will pretty much work on RMZ450's 08 to 2023. There was a change in the bike in 19, but the motor is still very similar. Pretty much everything should correspond. What you're going to need: a quart of oil, an oil filter. I like to use a Folgers coffee drain, a rag, gloves, an 8mm, a pick or a screwdriver, and a 10mm socket of some sort. So the first thing I want to do is start the bike up. Just feel the radiators. When they get warm, the oil should be thin enough that'll help it drain. We've got a 10mm bolt head directly on the bottom. We're going to drain that first. Okay guys, after you get your lower bolt drain, you've got a strainer over here on this side and another drain. We're going to back it out. Alright guys, Suzuki is going to suggest you clean this strainer every time you change the oil. So you're going to spray it out with some brake cleaner, let it dry. Rocky Mountain actually has a very good video on taking that clip and stuff out. Alright guys, once you get your strainer cleaned, you can simply put it back in. As far as these copper crush washers, I like to try to reuse them until they start dripping. A lot of times you can get a lot of use out of those. You don't have to replace them every time. If you want to be 100% foolproof that you won't get a drip, then just replace it for sure. This bolt is very close to the frame here and can be a little bit tricky to get started back in there. Alright guys, now let's stop and talk about quantities in this bike real fast before we change this oil filter. It says 1200 milliliters right here on the oil filter cover. This confuses a lot of guys because a lot of times if you drain the oil, you're not changing the oil filter or you don't get all the oil out of it. 1200 will seem like a lot. I recommend if you're changing the oil filter, do about 1100. If you're not changing the oil filter, just do a liter, a solid liter, 1000 milliliters, and you'll be good. This 1200 number, as I understand it, is total engine oil capacity. So these bikes are actually better off a little bit underfilled than overfilled. So don't put too much. Another thing I forgot to mention is Suzuki recommends you crank on the Kickstarter when you're draining it as well to pump some of that oil out. So let's go ahead and remove this oil filter. You need a 207 oil filter for these RMZs, guys. That's a K&N number. So that 207 number is going to be your K&N or your high flow number if you're getting an aftermarket filter. Little bolt from the top, long bolt from the bottom. Sometimes you might need to be gentle with a flathead to get this cover off because the O-ring seals it pretty good. Use a pick or a screwdriver very gently to pry out that old oil filter. And just remember, when you put your new oil filter in, you're going to put the hollow side in because that's how the oil flows on this. This one even says this side in. Now, take a look at your O-ring here. You can replace these if you want, but honestly, they last a long time normally. If you didn't get in there and damage it with a pick or anything, you should be good. Put this cover back on. When you put this cover back on, you want to go a few turns with each bolt so that the cover goes on straight. On the old KX450Fs, these used to break all the time if you weren't very careful. Alright guys, for what oil you're going to put back in this thing, that's completely up to you. I recommend keeping it cheap but quality, something like Maxima Premium 1040. You can put synthetic if you want. If you want to run Rotella, you know, that's on you. If you want to support a brand that has nothing to do with the motorcycle industry or support them at all, that's completely on you. I try to use Maxima, Bel-Ray, Motorex, Amsoil, some company that gives back to the sport. So if you did not change the oil filter, I put an even liter in. If you did change the oil filter, then put a liter and some change, maybe put a liter and see where you're at. Now you do have an oil level check bolt right here. So if you have the bike very level, then you should be able to fill it up, and when oil starts to come out of this bolt right here, you should be good. I will use this to double check sometimes. Normally I just pour in the correct amount of oil, guys, because if it's burning oil, you're going to know. If it's leaking oil, you're going to know. So if you drain out, get about what you should, put it back in, you should be good. Alright guys, that's it. Fill the bike up with 1,000 to 1,100 milliliters of oil. Have fun and go ride. It's very simple in the RMZ450s. Keep an eye on your screens. Keep them clean. Every time you change the oil, these things will last you a long time. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Ryan with the MXG channel. I'm going to put all the links to everything you need down below so you can snag them off AOMC. Use coupon code MXGuru to save some money. See you in the next video.